welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And I'm hungry.
Me too,
Yeah,
actually.
It's the morning. I haven't really had a good breakfast yet. So it actually is good and really bad that we're reading the global story of the Danish pastry. It's good because Danish pastries, or Danishes, as most people call them, are a really good breakfast food. It's bad because we don't have any here with us in the studio. We could have delicious looking food like this, but we don't. So I'm sad.
Yeah, we should have probably called ahead and say, hey, we're doing the Danish pastry story. We should have some Danishes.
I think someone should, we would be better if we could taste them and experience them and share our feelings with the world and, you know, get sugar on our face and all that stuff.
Oh,
but
now I am really
I guess
hungry.
the good thing is, though, after today and tomorrow, we will have wonderful new ideas for what amazing Danish pastries there are out there. And that will inspire us to go out, visit the local bakery, and hopefully get ourselves a really good Danish, because this apparently is a story that is global.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting because it's called a Danish, which is an area of the world, you know, Denmark.
Denmark.
And so you'd think that, oh, okay, shouldn't we be learning about the history of just it in that country?
That's exactly right. And maybe you can bring some insight, because I know you're half Danish too. I mean, it doesn't mean you're half pastry. That means you had grandparents from Denmark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, although I really can't.
You really can't what?
I can't bring any insight into this. Because I actually don't like Danishes.
Really? Don't tell anyone in Denmark. They won't let you visit anymore. And if you're half Danish, what's the other half?
German.
I thought it was like scrambled eggs.
Oh, pancake.
Pancake, half Danish, half pancake, all delicious. All right, guys, we're going to read the global story of the Danish pastry. It's going to be amazing. It's going to blow your mind, and it's going to make you hungry. So come back, but get a snack. Among the world's favorite breakfast foods is the Danish, a sweet pastry with a variety of flavors. But did you know that, despite its name, it wasn't actually invented by Danish bakers? So, who first came up with this treat? The Danish Bakers' Union credits Claudius Gelle, a young baker from 17th century France, as the man who made the first ever Danish. In a happy accident, Gelle forgot to add butter to his dough and tried to fold it in later to cover up his mistake. After baking the dough, he was surprised to find that it tasted quite delicious. Years later, Gelle set up his own cafes in Paris and Florence, where he served this unique pastry to hungry customers. Soon, his recipe spread from Florence to the city of Vienna. All right, so yes, let's read the interesting and kind of surprising global story of the Danish pastry.
Part one.
Part one.
Yes. Okay, so we'll jump right in and figure it out. And it says, among the world's favorite breakfast foods is the Danish, a sweet pastry with a variety of flavors. So yes, it is a very well-known breakfast food, and it is something that can be made with many, many, many different types of flavors. And flavor is the taste of something. And you can talk about different types of flavors. So it could be blueberry, blackberry, apple, different types of flavors. Or even talking about flavor as strong or not strong. So sometimes if you talk about bread, oh, this is just a simple piece of toast, so there's not much flavor. Or this one, you can really taste it, so it has a strong flavor. And in our example sentence, we talk about garlic, and it says, if you don't use garlic, your food will lack flavor. So this is more of the second example of you don't taste much. It's just kind of simple and not much flavor. That's right. That's why we add garlic, salt, sugar, pepper, herbs, spices to improve the flavor or the taste of our food. All right, but did you know that, despite its name, the Danish, it wasn't actually invented by Danish bakers? It's called the Danish after the country of Denmark, but bakers from Denmark
did not make this food.
Okay.
That is really weird. So, who first came up with this treat, and how did the Danes kind of steal the invention and said, yes, this is ours, because they didn't invent it? Well, something's going on here. We'll find out more, but first let's talk about the word invent, because it's hard to make something new that has never been made before if you don't invent it. Because inventing something is making something new that has never been made before, or even thinking of something new, maybe drawing out plans for it before anyone else has ever done it. So if you're a scientist, an engineer, especially an engineer, and you actually take science and turn it into something that works in the real world, you are inventing things. Alexander Graham Bell, the telephone, Thomas Edison, the recorded sound or the light bulb, Henry Ford and the modern motor car. These types of things were invented by people long ago or even today, but thinking creatively and using their knowledge to make new things for everyone to use and enjoy. Before the telephone was invented, people sent letters to their friends. It's true. They also shouted a lot. Hey, I'm going to the store. Do you want to? No, they didn't shout too much, but.
Yes, and so now we're still trying to figure out how did the Danes take over this food if they didn't invent it. So let's see. And it says the Danish Bakers Union credits Claudius Gelée, a young baker from 17th century France, as the man who made the first ever Danish. Okay, so we have a Bakers Union from Denmark, and they still say, hey, this person actually made it, this guy from France, but we're still going to call it a Danish.
That is really, really interesting. But in a happy accident, Gelée forgot to add butter to his dough and tried to fold it in later to cover up his mistake. So not only did he invent the Danish, but he was a bad baker.
Yeah.
But he invented something delicious, so we forgive him.
Yes.
But basically, he made a mistake. He should have put butter into the dough to kind of lighten it and make it tastier and that kind of thing. As you do if you're making bread, maybe no butter, but if you're making pie or cakes or donuts, things like that, you would definitely have in butter. And here we use the term fold, which is something you use in baking.
Yes. Right? And so fold, this is a verb, and obviously in most cases that you will see this word, you're talking about like maybe folding clothes or folding paper, which is to bend it in a certain way. But when we talk about baking, this is actually a kind of specific baking term. And the idea is that you're adding something very light to something that's a little bit heavier, and you're trying to mix them together without letting them get too mixed up.
Okay.
So it's a very kind of careful way to mix your bowl of batter or whatever it might be without trying to break apart the really soft thing or let it get too mixed up. And so a lot of times you fold in like creams or eggs or things like that when you don't want it to be too mixed, but you need it to get a little mixed.
So you're mixing it, but you like to keep things in kind of separate layers.
Yeah, it's kind of like in there, but not in there.
Right. Okay.
And so we have this example sentence that says, Tina carefully folded the eggs into the cake mix. So again, they didn't want it to be totally all mixed together and blended up. They want them to be a little bit separate still. And so then we can keep reading, and we see after baking the dough, he was surprised to find that it tasted quite delicious. So again, the butter had been added later. It wasn't at the right time, and hey, it still kind of worked.
Interesting. So it came out with nice layers, and the butter wasn't kind of stuck in one place. It actually worked out quite well for a happy accident, I guess we would call that. Years later, Gelée set up his own cafes in Paris and Florence, so in France and in Italy, where he served this unique pastry to hungry customers. His big mistake pastry became very popular with the customers, and soon his recipe spread from Florence to the city of Vienna. Okay. Then as now, Italy was still a world leader in, cooking and style and new things. And of course, this new style of pastry, this new style of baking tasty stuff proved very popular with the people. And you can't keep a good idea or a good recipe down. It spread around the country and people went nuts for Gelé and his Frenches, not Danishes, whatever they were. They went nuts for them. And I'm going nuts because I'm getting hungry. So we're going to take a break and then we'll be back.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。同学们喜欢吃丹麦面包吗？丹麦面包是世界上最受欢迎的早餐食物之一。这种糕点具有多种口味。那虽然它被称为丹麦面包，可是它其实不是由丹麦面包师傅发明的哦。我们先来看单字 flavor 表示口味、味道。Mike 老师提到像香料啊、香草等等可以用来增添风味。那老师提到这个 herb 它可以指调味用的香草，也有药草的意思。下一个单字 invent， 它是表达发明创造，是个动词。好，那现在我们就来看看丹麦面包的起源吧。丹麦烘焙师联盟认为史上第一位制作出丹麦面包的人是17世纪的法国年轻面包师傅克劳迪斯·格勒。那有一次，这位格勒他就忘了把奶油加入面团里，之后他试图要把这个奶油拌进来，把它掩盖错误。可是没想到在烤过面团后，意外发现这味道相当美味。几年后呢，他甚至还在巴黎还有佛罗伦斯开设了自己的咖啡简餐馆，来卖这种独特的糕点。很快的，他的食谱就从佛罗伦斯传到了维也纳。好，单字 fold 本身有折叠的意思，可是在这边它是表达把这种调料调入、加入、拌入的那种意思。那用法是 fold something in 或者是 fold something into 加上名词。好，那这边两个重点，我们进入文法时间。我们来看第一个重点是主词补语的倒装用法。当主词带有比较长的修饰语，或者是要强调主词补语的时候，我们可以把补语移到句首，然后再把这个主词跟动词进行倒装。以句型来看，原本的句型可能是主词加 be 动词加主词补语，倒装之后会变成主词补语加 be 动词加主词。举例来说，A woman wearing a red dress is standing by the side of the stage. 一名身穿红色洋装的女子站在舞台旁边。我们现在把这个主词补语 standing by the side of the stage 移到句首，那主词动词经过倒装，句子就变成 Standing by the side of the stage is a woman wearing a red dress. 第二个重点是 credit somebody or something as 加上名词或动名词，这表示认为什么什么是怎么样。那么 credit 在这边当动词来表达认为什么具有某种特质或效果。它的被动用法是 be credited as 加上名词或动名词。例如 Zoe credits her mother as her role model. Zoe 认为她的母亲是她的榜样。介华课文中。
Austrian bakers then took this recipe to Denmark, when in 1850, many moved there to temporarily replace striking Danish bakers. Gellé's pastry became very popular, and when the strike ended, the Danes learned how to make it themselves. After they changed the recipe by adding more fat and eggs, the Danish we know today was born.
Okay, so our mistake from gelée has now gone from France to Italy to Vienna, and now we have to see how did it get to Denmark. And so we read Austrian bakers then took this recipe to Denmark when, in 1850, many moved there to temporarily replace striking Danish bakers. Okay, so 1850, apparently a whole bunch of Danish bakers decided they didn't want to work.
We want more money. We don't want to work.
They didn't like something, so they were on strike, which means to temporarily stop stop working until some condition is met, something is fixed between the workers and the employers, and then they will kind of figure it out. But instead, a bunch of Austrian bakers came and kind of replaced them.
Interesting.
And this word temporarily, again, it was all temporary. Temporarily is an adverb, and it comes from the word temporary, which means not permanent. So if you want something to happen just for a short time, or you're only doing something for a little bit, that's temporary. And we have an example of our sentence. It says, the sign said that the computer was temporarily out of use.
Okay.
So maybe it's getting fixed, or whatever reason it's going to be replaced. So right now it's not useful, you can't use it, but you will be able to later.
And if something is broken, though, you won't be able to fix it, but you'll have to replace it instead. To replace something is basically to take something old and put something new and basically the same in its place. So yes, if you lose something important to you, if something that you use breaks and you need to use it, you need to have it, then you're gonna have to go and get a new one. You're gonna have to go to the store to replace the old one, the broken one, the one you lost, the one you can't use anymore. Also, if you're talking about people, you might have a friend who gets sick on your baseball team, but you have a big game tomorrow. You'll have to replace that person. You can't play the game with less than 9 players, so you have to get a new one to take the place or replace the one who can't play. Here's an example. She bought some new curtains to replace the old ones. They were a little old, a little torn, a little dirty, whatever. She got some new curtains to take the place of the old curtains. All right, so now we have a bunch of Austrian bakers in Denmark making delicious food. But many of these Austrians came from Florence, where they might have learned Claudius Gellé's amazing style of pastry. So Gellé's pastry became very popular. And when the strike ended, the Danes learned how to make it themselves. So the style of cooking was brought to their country by Austrians who learned it in Florence from a French baker, but now it's in Denmark. The Danish people, the Danish bakers, they're going nuts for it. They love it, and they have their own amazing ideas. After they changed the recipe by adding more fat and eggs, the Danish we know today was born. Because generally with pastry and with a lot of food, if you add more fat and eggs, it'll probably be a bit tastier.
Yes, and so I mean, I guess they changed it a little bit.
They did,
so
absolutely.
The Danish makes a little more sense now because it sounds like it's slightly different than before. So it's a new and improved gelée mistake.
And Gelé's Danish, the Florence Danish, was probably much healthier than the ones today with less butter and eggs. But anyways, let's talk about the Danish tomorrow. We're going to find out more about this amazing international journey of the Danish and get some really cool ideas for what to put in your Danish, because it's more than just the dough. We'll see you then.
刚刚说到格勒的食谱从佛罗伦斯传到了维也纳，那么之后奥地利面包师傅就将这个食谱带到了丹麦，因为在1850年有很多的奥地利面包师傅搬到那边去，暂时取代罢工的丹麦面包师傅。那格勒的糕点变得非常受欢迎，在罢工结束之后，丹麦人也学会自己制作了。他们改变了食谱，加了更多的脂肪和鸡蛋，于是呢，我们今天所熟知的丹麦面包就诞生了。好，单字 temporarily 它是副词，表示暂时的、临时的。replace 这个动词则表示更换、代替或是以什么什么取代。那补充一下 strike 它可以当名词或动词来表达罢工，那文中是用现在分词 striking 来当形容词去形容罢工的。好，那以上是这节讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Among the world's favorite breakfast foods is the Danish, a sweet pastry with a variety of flavors. But did you know that, despite its name, it wasn't actually invented by Danish bakers? So, who first came up with this treat? The Danish Bakers Union credits Claudius Gelée, a young baker from 17th century France, as the man who made the first ever Danish. In a happy accident, Gelle forgot to add butter to his dough and tried to fold it in later to cover up his mistake. After baking the dough, he was surprised to find that it tasted quite delicious. Years later, Gelle set up his own cafes in Paris and Florence, where he served this unique pastry to hungry customers. Soon, his recipe spread from Florence to the city of Vienna. Austrian bakers then took this recipe to Denmark, when in 1850, many moved there to temporarily replace striking Danish bakers. Gelle's pastry became very popular, and when the strike ended, the Danes learned how to make it themselves. After they changed the recipe by adding more fat and eggs, the Danish we know today was born.
Here's how to play. The host will be holding 3 cards. Each card will have 2 sentences containing a secret vocabulary word or phrase that has been replaced by the word bear. The host will read the sentences out loud for the contestants to guess. Whoever guesses first gets a point. The person with the most points wins. And you can play along too.
G'day, I'm Josh, and today we're going to be playing Guess the Bear. And today we have
Stephen
and
Carolyn.
All right, our first word is an adjective. We all ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. The bad news made me really bare. Kate is bare at Kevin for lying to her.
Mad. Upset.
You got it, mate. It is mad. It is mad.
That's
the first
mad.
time.
Okay.
Let's hear how that sounds in complete form. The bad news made me really mad. Kate is mad at Kevin for lying to her. Yeah, Kevin's a bit of a bad egg. All right. Now, one word. Join the game and win a bear. The grand bear for the contest is a trip to Japan.
Prize.
Oh, that's right. First prize answer to a first prize question. Here we go. Join the game and win a prize. The grand prize for the contest is a trip to Japan. Sounds like a contest I want to be involved in. All right, phrase. 2 words. This one might be a little bit tricky. Craig bears bear in the marathon every year. Molly bared bear in the singing contest.
Came first.
No. Do you want to hear it again?
Places first?
No. Do you want to hear it again?
Yes, please.
All right. Craig bears bear in the marathon every year. Molly bared bear in the singing contest.
Participates in.
Very close.
Enrolls in?
No.
No. Takes part.
Yes.
Takes part.
Yes, take part. Craig takes part in the marathon every year. Molly takes part in the singing contest.
Oh.
Yeah, who would have thought Craig
Yeah.
and Molly would have such extracurricular activities? But here we are.
My favorite is when he's like, no.
Well, hey, that's
It was like, oh.
so we definitely have
Sorry.
a winner today.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's right.
Thank
You're
you.
winning that trip to Japan.
Am I really?
Yeah, first prize.